Hello there and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hi, my name is Nesli and I'm a pattern maker. Today we are sewing mini twist skirts and I am so excited to show you this one because it's made from 5 identical panels that curve and twist around your body, so you get this really beautiful drape and voluminous hem without doing anything complicated. We'll go step by step together, starting from cutting the fabric and sewing the curved edges and placing an invisible zipper to those curved edges and finishing with a waistband facing around the waist and doing a small and narrow hem at the bottom of the skirt. It might look a little bit tricky at first, but once you see the whole process, you'll see how easy it is. And if you have never sewn anything with a curved edge, this is a really nice project to practice on. So I am sewing my own size today, which is size medium, but the pattern comes in all sizes from XX small to 5X large. So one really important note that I need to mention, that you need to cut these pattern pieces, all 5 of them, on a single layer of fabric, so no cutting on fold, maybe except for the waistband, but this is optional. You can cut the waistband by folding it in the middle on fold, or you can cut it on a single layer. It's not the issue, but for the skirt pieces, skirt panels, you need to cut on a single piece of layer. And also in this tutorial, the waistband facing has a bias tape finish on the bottom edge of it, but this is optional. You can finish the edge with an overlock stitch, but I am showing you in any case if you want to use bias tape there. It's, I think, more polished, more professional looking, but it's up to you. But if you want to sew bias tape to your facing, which I think you should, you can go ahead and do that with me. I think I've told you everything I need to mention, which means grab your prints, grab your fabric, pattern, and your bias tape, your invisible zipper, and sew along with me. And by the end, you'll have a skirt that looks professional and is so fun to wear. And I'm super excited to take you along to this journey with me. And let's start sewing.
First, I take a long ruler and line it up with the grain line marking on the pattern. Then I place little marks on the seam allowance because my fabric has stripes. And I can place those markings on a line to make sure everything is lined up perfectly with the grain line. Once that's done, I secure the pattern with some pattern weights and a few pins and then cut out my fabric. I'll need a total of 5 of this pattern piece, and I'm cutting them all on a single layer of fabric so that they are all facing the same direction. The direction is really important in this pattern. After cutting, make sure you transfer all the notches from the pattern to your fabric. For the facing piece, you can cut it as it is or fold it in half and place it on the fabric fold. That's what I prefer to do here. So I fold my fabric, place the pattern right against the edge and cut it out. Transfer the notches on the facing as well. I repeat the exact same thing for the interfacing as well. So now I've got all 5 skirt pieces cut out, and I'm just marking the notches so you can see them nice and clearly. Since all these edges are curved, they're basically like they're cut on bias, which means they can stretch out while you sew. To avoid that, let's do stay stitch around every edge of all 5 pieces. Keep your stitches right along the edge in the seam allowance, set your stitch length long, and whenever you hit a corner, just lift your presser foot, pivot, and keep going. This little step will save you a lot of trouble later and keep things matching. Alright, let's take one piece in front of us. You'll notice it has one curvy edge and one even curvier edge. Now grab 2 pieces and place them side by side. You're going to match the less curvy edge of one to the curvier edge of the other. Make sure those little pointy corners are all facing the same direction. This is their right sides facing upwards, so flip one of them and bring the right sides together. Start by matching up the notches that line up with each other. Make sure the waistlines are aligned and also check that the hemlines match up too. At the hemline, a tiny triangle at the pointy corner may stick out when matching. That's perfectly normal. Take your time, line each notch carefully, add a few pins to keep it steady, and then sew along the edge with a 1 cm seam allowance. After sewing the 2 panels together, you'll see that on the wrong side, the seam allowance naturally wants to fall in this direction because of the shape. So starting from the pointy corner, we'll overlock this side facing up so that the neat side of the overlock stitch shows on the outside. Now I'm pressing the seam allowance towards the direction it naturally wants to go, which is the same direction the pointy corners are pointing. Then I flip it over and press again from the right side so the seam looks nice and crisp. I'll join the remaining 3 panels the exact same way, always keeping the direction consistent. Each time I'm sewing the less curvy edge to the more curvy edge, one by one. I'm not touching the very first edge and the very last edge yet. I flip the panels so the right sides are touching, match up the notches, line up the waistline and the hemline, then pin everything together. After pinning, I sew each edge one by one with a 1 cm seam allowance. Once they are all stitched together, you can see on the wrong side that the seam allowances fall to the same direction again. So just like before, I start overlocking with the pointy edge facing upwards, so the neat side of the overlock shows. And once more, I press the seam allowances in the direction the pointy corners are pointing. And then flip and press from the right side too, so the seams look extra crisp. Now we are going to attach the invisible zipper to the 2 open edges. One is curvier than the other. To make things easier, let's name the notches. The one closest to the waistline is notch A and the one after is notch B. Before we place the zipper, overlock both edges between the waistline and notch B, but do it from the right side of the skirt. Be careful not to let the blade cut into your fabric, just skim along the edge neatly. I overlock up to the notch B, pivot right at that point and finish the stitch. Since we need to overlock from the right side, when I'm doing the other edge, this time I'm starting at notch B and going up to the waistline. We do this now because once the zipper is in, it'll be very hard to get a clean overlock here. We only overlock these portions now because this is where the zipper will go. For this skirt, you'll need an invisible zipper at least 20 cm long. Mine is longer, but I'll show you how to handle the extra length. If yours is exactly 20 cm, you don't need to do those steps. Remember, on an invisible zipper, the wrong side shows the teeth, while the right side looks smooth. With the zipper facing up, align the left zipper tape with the left edge of the skirt. At the very top, locate the small plastic stopper. This should sit right at the waistline, with the tape extending slightly above. Pin it in place. The right side of the fabric should face the right side of the zipper, with the zipper teeth pointing inward, and the zipper tape edge perfectly aligned with the skirt edge. Then, pin from the waistline all the way down to notch B. Place your last pin on the notch B and place a small mark on the zipper tape right where notch B falls. This will be your guide. Now, baste the zipper in place along this edge, sewing from the waistline down to notch B. Next, zip the zipper all the way up and flip it over so you're looking at the right side. At both notch A and notch B, mark the exact spots where they meet the zipper tape. These marks will help us line everything on the opposite side. Unzip again, and now we are going to place the remaining zipper tape along this edge. Flip the zipper tape so it's facing the right side of the fabric. Line up the stopper with the waistline once more and use those marks to match notch A and notch B with the other side of the skirt. Pin the zipper in place from the waistline down to notch B. Before we go further, zip it up again to double check that the zipper isn't twisted and that everything matches perfectly. Now baste this side of the zipper as well, sewing from notch B down to the waistline. When zipped up, your skirt should look even on both sides. Unzip once more with the wrong side facing up. Stitch right along the base of the zipper teeth. To do this, switch to an invisible zipper foot so you can get as close as possible to the teeth. On a domestic sewing machine, the invisible zipper foot looks like this. Then sew the other side of the zipper. This time working from notch B up towards the waistline. Finally, zip it up and look how invisible that zipper is. Now let's close up the bottom section. Turn the skirt inside out and pull the extra zipper tape out of the way. Bring the two remaining edges together, right sides facing, and match up the last notches and hemlines. Pin all the way up, placing the final pin right where our zipper stitching ended at notch B. Insert the pin from one side of the seam and let the tip come out right at the stitching on the other side. We'll start sewing from the hem up to that exact point, so the new seam meets perfectly with the end of the zipper seam. I'm switching to my regular zipper foot and sewing with a 1 cm seam allowance until I reach the end of that previous stitch. This way, when you look closely from the outside, the point where the zipper ends and the seam begins is almost invisible. With this pointy corner facing upward again, I'm going to run an overlock stitch from the hem up toward the notch B. Right under notch B, I make a small clip into the seam allowance. This gives me enough room to pivot when I can't go any further because of the zipper. So I'll start here, overlock up to the clipped point, then pivot and finish. As you can see, the overlock gets as close as possible, stopping just beneath the zipper stitching. Finally, I press the seam allowance in the direction of the pointy corner and then flip the skirt to press again from the right side. To finish off the extra zipper length, turn the skirt to the wrong side. On the back of the zipper, mark a point 3 cm down from notch B. From there, measure another 5 to 6 cm down and trim away the extra zipper. Now, up to that last marking, carefully cut away only the zipper teeth in the center, leaving the fabric tapes intact. Take one tape, fold it diagonally over to the opposite side and pin it. Do the same with the other tape, folding it across and pinning it in place. Next, fold both tapes inward so they tuck neatly under the zipper and pin them close to the zipper teeth. Trim off any extra tape, leaving about 1 cm at the back. Repeat the same process on the other side. Secure everything with a small stitch right at the base of the zipper teeth. This gives us a clean finish. On the back side, you can carefully melt and seal the cut edge with a lighter since the zipper is plastic, but be extra careful while doing this. And finally, give the area a good press to set everything neatly. Now it's time to prepare and attach the waistband facing. Since this is the right side of the facing, I'm flipping it so the wrong side is facing up, and I place it flat on my ironing board. Take your interfacing and lay it carefully on top, making sure all the edges line up perfectly. The wrong sides of both pieces should be touching. With your iron, press straight down without sliding side to side. This way the interfacing stays in place and bonds exactly where it should. Press along all edges and corners. Then flip it over and give it a press from the right side too, just to make sure it's fully secured. Next, mark the 4 notches along the waistline edge, the inner curved edge, so they are easier to see. Now let's finish the bottom edge. I'm using single fold bias tape for this. The tape should be 4 cm wide when unfolded, which will perfectly wrap around the 1 cm seam allowance once folded and stitched. Open up the bias tape and match its raw edge with the raw edge of the facing. Pin it along the entire bottom edge on the right side of the facing. Trim off any extra, then stitch it in place, sewing 1 cm in from the edge. Fold the unsewn edge of the bias tape inwards by 1 cm, then fold it in half lengthwise. Place it along the bottom edge again so that the 1 cm shows on both the front and the back. On the front side, position your pins right at the seam where the facing meets the bias tape. On the back, make sure the pins catch the bias tape too. This way, when you sew from the front, the back edge will also get stitched securely. Pin all the way, folding and securing the bias tape neatly. Then sew it down 2 mm from the edge, stitching on the front side while catching the back. This gives you a clean, even finish. Using bias tape here is optional. You can also simply overlock the edge if you prefer. Once you're done, trim off any excess bias tape. So we've got 4 notches on the waistband facing, and each one will line up with a seam line on the skirt. First, open up your zipper and flip it so the wrong side is facing up. Now take your facing wrong side up as well, so its right side can match the skirt's right edge. Match the waistline of the facing with the waistline of the skirt. This short edge of the facing should line up with the raw edge of the skirt, with the zipper sandwiched right in between. Start pinning this section first, and then baste it in place with a straight stitch. After sewing, mark exactly where the bias tape meets the zipper tape. Then, zip the zipper up, flip it so you can see the back side. And transfer that mark directly to the other zipper tape. This way, you'll know exactly where the other short edge of the facing should match, so both sides line up perfectly. Now, unzip the zipper again. Starting from the side you already sewed, work notch by notch to place the facing. Be sure the right sides are together. Line up the first notch with the first seam line, pin, and continue matching notches with seam lines all the way around. Now let's do the same thing for the second notch. Match the right sides together, line up the notch with the seam line and pin. Then, I move on to the third one. And finally, the fourth and the last notch. At this point, we've reached the other short edge of the facing. Place the bottom edge of the bias tape right at the mark you made on the zipper tape earlier. The facing's right side should be touching the wrong side of the zipper tape. Pin it along the edge, and you'll see how beautifully everything lines up. I add a few more pins along the waistline just to keep it secure. Now sew from the bottom edge. Pivot 1 cm before the corner and continue along the waistline. Then pivot again 1 cm before the other corner and sew down to the bottom edge. If you got extra zipper length sticking out, you can trim it off now. To find the exact pivot points, draw a line 1 cm in from each edge. And where 2 lines cross, that's your pivot spot. Mark it on both sides so it's easy to follow. Use a regular zipper foot so you can stitch close to the zipper teeth. That's how it works on domestic machines too. Clip little triangles into the corners, being careful not to cut in your stitching. This will reduce bulk, so when you flip it right side out, the corners turn crisp and smooth. Now I'm flipping everything right side out. I press into the corners with my fingers, pushing them out as much as possible. With the skirt and facing wrong side up in front of me, I press the seam allowance upwards toward the facing. I'm holding it in place with my hands from the back. I carefully flip everything over so the right side is up. Now, we are going to understitch along the waist seam line, stitching 2 mm from the seam on the facing side. I'll place a pin here so you can see exactly where the seam line goes. Because of the zipper and corners, the presser foot won't let me get super close into the very edges. And that's okay. Just go as close as your machine allows. As I sew, I'll make sure to catch the seam allowance underneath as well, so it's all secured together. Understitching is a really useful little trick that keeps facing lying flat on the inside of a garment. Without it, the facing might flip out or peek through the outside. Here, you can see from the inside that the skirt fabric rolls just slightly to the wrong side. That's exactly what we want, so when you look it from the outside, the facing and the seam line that joins it stays hidden. Now it is time for the final step. For the hem, I need to do overlock stitch on the right side of the skirt all the way around. This is the right side, and I'm being careful not to let the blade into my fabric. Just skim along the edge nice and neatly. When you reach the starting point, lift the foot and pivot the skirt and complete the overlock. After you are done, flip the skirt so the wrong side is facing up and fold over only the overlocked edge, working your way along the entire hemline. I'm only pinning at the seam lines while folding the hem, but if you like, you can pin all the way around. Sew along the entire hemline with a 5mm seam allowance, stitching through and securing the overlocked edge as you go. Since the hemline is very curved, this is the maximum amount we can fold. Once the stitching is done, give the entire hem a good press from both the front and back. Alright, that's our twist skirt all finished. Just look at how wide that hem is and how much volume it gives. Here's a peek at the inside. You can see where the facing meets the zipper, nice and clean. I hope you are as happy with yours as I am with mine. Our invisible zipper is, well, really invisible. I love to see your skirts, so if you share them on Instagram, don't forget to tag me. And if this video was helpful, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next project. Thanks so much for sewing with me. I'll see you next time.